the wage determination. Under this concept here, the level of wage is largely influenced by the elasticity of demand for labor. So the level of wage is actually what is paid for the laborers, the rate amount for what is paid for the laborers. So for this case, the level of wage is largely influenced and determined by the elasticity of demand for labor. So when the demand for labor is inelastic, labor or trade unions will have the big power to negotiate for higher wages. So for that case now, if they will be able to negotiate for higher wages, this is unlikely when the demand for particular labor is elastic. So the reason is that for this kind of amount is actually shown on the demand side, is that the reason is that when the demand for particular labor is inelastic, employers who are the ones who demand labor will not decrease by a large proportion. So the quantity demanded for labor even when the trade union succeeds. So in the raising the level of wages, on the other hand, when the demand for particular labor is elastic, employers will demand less labor when wages are raised. Therefore, in this case, this causes of elastic demand for labor for many workers will lose their jobs, and when their demand for large increase in wages. So the level of wages is largely influenced and determined by the elasticity of demand for labor. This means that whenever laborers for any labor who are employed for a certain work or to work in a certain firm or industries, demand for high wages depending on their productivity they contribute to the particular firm. This means that the level of wages may either be increases due to the more affections on the level of the elasticity of demand for a particular labor. So when the demand for labor is inelastic now, labor or trade unions will have a big power to negotiate for higher wages. This means that whenever laborers who are employed for any works demands or shouting for increase of wages, this means that the inelasticity of labor is actually shown in the process. And because there is an elasticity of labor, this means that the demand for labor will be inelastic for that particular case. So, but when the demand for particular labor is inelastic, this means that any changes of wages affect their contribution or their working capability in that particular industries. Now, employers who are the ones who demand for those labor now will not decrease the demand. This means that the employers who are the ones who demand for labor will not decrease by a large proportion. So the quantity demanded for labor even when a trade union succeeds in the raising their level of wages. So on the other hand, when the demand for a particular labor is elastic now, employers will demand less labor. This means because the employers are fearing that they are not having a sufficient income to pay for those laborers, for the shouting for the increase of those wages. This means that they demand few laborers. So this means that demand for labor will be less. But if in this case now, when wages are raised, now therefore in this case now, the elasticity of demand for labor for many workers will lose their jobs when the demand for large is increasing wages. When the demand for large increases in wages, as you can observe. So even the elasticity of demand and inelasticity of demand plays a big role in wage determination. And that's why if there is elasticity of demand for labor, many of the employers will not employ much of the laborers, by knowing that one day the laborers will demand for high wages, and actually one of the firms operating by minimizing costs. So if they fear to increase the wages of the labor, they will demand less laborers. In one way or another, if also there is elasticity of demand, most of the labor will be able to give their supply of labor to the employers. Many of the laborers will want to work and be employed because of the elasticity of demand. But if there is an elastic, in one way or another, there will be also the scarcity of laborers, since many of the laborers will not feel comfortable to work in that particular firm. by knowing that there is no any objection, there is no option that if they will demand for high wages, the wages will be increased. This is because of that particular of the what is known as for what is known as an elastic exists in that particular market. If there is an elastic demand, most of the labor will not provide their power to work in that particular firms or industries or to the employers. So will not give their power, their laborers to work. So let's discuss about the price and revenue determination. Price and revenue determination. What is the actual concern about the price and revenue determination? The price that a firm charges, and the resulting revenue match on the elasticity of demand. So here we are going to look on the effects on how the inelastic and elastic demand affects the price and revenue determination. So the price that a firm charges and the resulting revenue depends much on the elasticity of demand for a commodity. A firm will charge a price when a commodity has an elastic demand. This means that a firm will charge a higher price for a certain commodity if that commodity, knowing that it is not affected with any change of price level. And the firm may charge a lower price to a commodity which has the elastic demand by knowing that that particular commodities are highly affected with the change of price level in the market. So the reason is that the consumers will not decrease a large quantity demanded in a commodity using elastic demand when the price is increased. Therefore, now a firm will get more revenue, but less revenue by charging price. On the other hand, consumers will decrease large quantity demanded on the commodities with the elastic demand when the price is increased. So in this case now of elastic demand, a firm will get less revenue by charging a higher price but more revenue by charging lower price. So this means that on the other hand, consumers will decrease large quantity demanded on a commodity with elastic demand when the price is increased. So in this case now, a firm will get less revenue by charging higher but more revenue by charging lower price. What is actually very concerned on how price and revenue determination is determined under the elastic and inelastic demand is that most of the firms charges a higher price to a commodities which has what inelastic demand by knowing that any change of prices does not affect those commodities. This means that the consumers are affordable, can to purchase those commodities without any lamentation or reducing consumption. But the actual thing to charge is to a type of market, the consumers, there is what is known as elastic demand. This means that consumers are very sensitive to any change of price. So whenever there is any change of price level, the firms may incur what is known as decrease in quantity demanded. Remember, the target of a firm is to charge higher price to those inelastic goods in the market by knowing that they will maximize high profits. But wonderful enough, charging higher price sometimes is a huge for a firm because they obtain a less profit because consumers decrease demand on a particular good. But charging lower price, which is friendly to the consumers, may sometimes increase quantity demanded, and this may be profitable for the company because the company may generate more revenue. So if you try to sketch out the graph showing the case of an elastic demand whenever the firms charges higher price, but also it show from this graph demand and elastic demand, try to show the price is actually set by the firm in the market, in the type of maybe inelastic or elastic market, and how the revenue is obtained for the inelastic good and the inelastic goods. So it will be better we look graphical, the concept and the price and revenue determinations under what is known as the effect of elasticity, elastic demand. So this is how the graph looks. Let's try to demonstrate graphical the concepts. So in case of what is known as an elastic demand, as I told you, we observe that under an elastic demand, most of the firm charges higher price for all goods which are in elastic demand, by knowing that there is any change of price will not affect the change of quantity demanded in the market. So if you sketch the graph, we have the price level in the y-axis, but also we have the x-axis that represent out the quantity demanded in a kilogram. So if you sketch the graph will be equals to, we start to draw the line that cut across from the top to the bottom, and we have also another line that starts horizontal going downward like this. So we need to draw the demand curve that across the line. So since we have the quantity that's present in the x-axis, so we have let me draw it properly. So this is a price level. So we have the price level of 50 and 100, but also we have the quantities that is 5 and 6. So it shows that under an elastic demand, most of the firm charges higher price to an elastic demand by knowing any change of price. Let's assume the price has changes from 50 to 100. So when the price changes from 50 to 100, a shift of price from 50 to 100, this means that this is a actually higher gap of increase of price. This means that there is increase more of price that has increases to 100. So any big change of 50 maybe to 100 does not cause, it causes a retro decrease. It causes a retro decrease. It causes a retro decrease in quantity demanded. That is 60 to 5. From 60 to 5. This actual, from this case here, if the firm desire to charge a higher price, it can be an expectation of a firm that it may maximize. But in one way, when you calculate the total revenue from this particular firm, you will find out it is low, as when you charge it, when the company or the firm a small price under what is known to goods which are known as the elastic goods. So a firm under imperfect market now will fix the price at what is known as 100. The intention here now for a firm under elastic demand to fix price, the higher price, is because he believes that the fixed price is charged to all inelastic goods, the goods which are not affected by any change of price. Its affection brings the small change in quantity demand, not a big change in quantity demanded. So for this case now, we observe that a firm in the particular firm may actually obtain the higher, it may obtain a lower or loss or sometimes a small profit because of charging at that higher price. So when you calculate the total revenue, it will be equals to price times quantity. So we take out the price, that is 100, that is a higher price, and we times the quantity that was bought, that is 5. We obtain the total revenue, that is 500 Tanzanian shillings. What if the government charges 50? So this kind of revenue that we've obtained here, when the firm charges 50, the lower price, then we take out, it will bring the greater quantity of commodity, that is 6. This means that most of the consumers will increase purchase of certain good because of the low price and because they are less affordable in consuming, in purchasing certain goods. And when you calculate the total revenue, we realize that the total revenue is bigger than when the firms charges a higher price. So when you take 50 times 6 is equal to 300. So you'll find out the total revenue that is charged from at this lower price is actually very small, as when you compare when the total revenue is charged at a high price. So the reason for why a firm charges at this price is that the firm is inelastic. So that's why the firms charges higher price with the intention of maximizing higher profit. So this means that a firm is inelastic even if the price increases from 50 to 100. So consumers will reduce the quantity demanded at a smaller amount. At that smaller amount, the consumer will reduce the quantity demanded at only a small amount from 6 to 5. So after understanding this, let's jump to a case of what is known as elastic demand. So under what is known as elastic demand, as I told you, when a firm charges a small price, normally a firm charges a small price to an elastic good for elastic demand, for an elastic demand market, because what firms believes is that when you charge a higher price at this particular elastic good market, is that many of the consumers will not afford to purchase a certain good. So there is a clear fall of a quantity demanded. So there will be a clear fall of the quantity demanded, and this actually may create a loss for a particular firm. So in the case of elastic demand, its graph looks like this. So we sketch out the line for the price level. So we sketch out the line of the graph, that's the price level. We have the price level graph, that is Tanzania shillings in the vertical left hand side. Like this. So our graph will appear like this. So demand curve will cut across at that point. So the demand curve cut across all the figure. So normally the demand curve is negative slope due to the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. So we have 0, we have 5, and we have 10. and at the price level we have 50 and 60. So as you can observe here, a firm charges a small amount at elastic demand because they fear that the consumers may reduce quantity consumed. They may reduce spending their money on certain goods and services. So as you can observe here, when the price level increases from 50 to 60, we have a big gap. We observe that even the quantity demanded reduced at a large gap, at a minimum, at a maximum amount from 10 to 5. So that if the demand is elastic, a firm will get more revenue by fixing price at 50. So if it is elastic, in order for a firm to maximize her revenue, the company must fix the price at the level of 50, the minimum price that actually attract many of the increased demand of that particular good and services. So if it is elastic, a firm will get more revenue. So if it is elastic, a firm will get more revenue by fixing a price at 50. So when you calculate the total revenue over here, this means that the total revenue will be equals by taking out this mean we'll take out the price, that is 50 times 10, that will give you 500. So when you calculate the total revenue when the price is set at 50, this means that will be 50 times 100. That exactly give you 500 times 10, that is equal to 500. 50 times 10, that is equal to 500. So, and when the firm's charges set a price at 60, this means the total revenue will be equal to 60 times 50. The total revenue will be equal to 60 times 5. 60 times 5, that will give you 300. So this will give you, this will be equal to 60 times 5. That will give you 300. So you observe here, to elastic market, in order for a firm to maximize revenue, to have a greater profit, the company must charge at price of 50. This brings a larger revenue, that is 500. Different from when the firm is forced to charge it at a higher price of 60. This means that they'll obtain a lower revenue of 300. So that is how it is.